episode, I want to talk about Ahsoka Tano. She's easily my favorite character in all of Star Wars. And I want to talk about her specifically because I think about her and her impact as sort of like the proverbial pebble that you drop into a pond that just creates these ripple effects everywhere. Her presence in this series and on the stories, and then on Anakin especially, has been felt wide and far since the very beginning of the Clone Wars series. Not the one from the early 2000s, but the more recent one. And I want to talk a little bit about why I think that's the case. When she first met Anakin in the Clone Wars, they didn't get along with each other very well. Anakin didn't really want an apprentice. He liked being on his own. He liked sort of like the adventure and the action. You could tell that. But by the end of that first episode of that original sort of like mini movie, when they wrapped up the Battle of Christophsis, and they both sort of agreed for her to be his Padawan, I think it's indicative of, not just the two of them working well together, but how she's going to shape the story in the long run. It's something that Yoda says to Obi-Wan when Anakin and Ahsoka walk away to go off and for the hunt for Jabba's son. And Yoda says, "Ready he is to teach an apprentice. To let go of his people, a greater challenge it will be. Master this he must." And we know that Anakin from the original, the prequel movies, has dealt with attachment issues in losing his mom and all of these other situations. And so I think bringing Ahsoka into that story really helps reinforce the fact that he's going to be challenged. And how he survives that challenge is going to be very interesting to watch, and it's indicative of what's going to happen to him in the long run. I think this is also really noticed in my case when Ahsoka actually ends up leaving the Jedi Order after the events of dealing with Bariss and her disconnection with the Jedi because of what she sees as the Jedi betraying everybody. I see this as sort of, and that happens in episode 20, I think, of season 5. I see this as like a way that they're telling the story that sort of Ahsoka helps delay Anakin become a Sith by inadvertently sort of challenging his emotional reaction to any given situation. Because as we've seen, Anakin has a tendency to want to go after what he thinks it's justice, but I think it's really more vengeance. But when she's around, he is constantly reckoning with the fact that he's got to be a master and really more importantly, a teacher. So time and time again, I see Ahsoka sort of challenging that in him. We see those in the standalone things too, not just with Anakin, but in the Mandalorian series. In the single episode that she was in there, we see it in Star Wars Rebels multiple times over. But I really wanted to focus on how she affects Anakin and like what that looks like in him developing into Vader. I think that was sort of a foregone conclusion because of how his upbringing happened. But I think more important is she sort of delays that over time and then has ramifications on other people too.